About a month ago, I bought this 1975 Camaro to fully rebuild and give away to my mom for Mother's Day. I only have 6 months left now before Mother's Day, and it's still in 1,000 pieces in my garage. But as a quick recap, we've already finished all of the front suspension, repainted the front frame, rebuilt the steering mechanisms, replaced and upgraded all of the rear suspension, welded in a brand new trunk pan, and rebuilt about half of the engine by myself in my garage. But like I said, we have a lot left to get done. So we're gonna be attaching the new piston heads to the connecting rods and ideally putting them in the block. Once these new pistons are put in the block, we're also gonna try to put the new camshaft in, which we've got sitting in a box right over there. And for anyone not too experienced with rebuilding engines, don't worry, I'm not either. This is my first time ever doing this. But I'm confident that I can get it done. I've watched and learned so much online, just like a lot of people do with this channel. People are watching these videos, learning what's going on, and that's how I learn too. So welcome back to another episode of the Camaro Rebuild. Today, we're working on the engine again. Now, like I said, our goal for today is we're gonna try and put the connecting rods with the piston heads. In order to do this, we're gonna have to play around with heat for the first time on this channel. Connecting rod slides into the piston like so, and then there's a pin that runs through this hole right here that connects them together. That pin on these old engines is pressure fit. Now, getting these out of the old cylinder heads took about 500 pounds of pressure to put them in, and I don't wanna be putting 500 pounds of pressure onto these new piston heads. So what you do is you take a blowtorch and you heat this end up, and that allows this area to expand. Now inside in my freezer, I have the pin that's gonna slide through the center. So with this heated up and expanded, and the pin frozen and contracted, when it goes into this hole, it should slide in pretty smoothly. As the two metals begin to come back to room temperature, this one will contract and the pin will expand, creating a nice tight pressure fit. All of that at the same time having to go on between the piston heads. So, it only gives me about 2 to 3 seconds of working time before the pressure fit locks in, which means this is a pretty high stakes deal because if I mess one thing up, I may end up either breaking the piston head or the rod or the pin, all of which is not fun, and I don't want to wait for more to get ordered and come in. And that's not even considering having to pay for more new parts. Additionally, with pistons, there's a front and a back, and you have to make sure that the head and the rod go front to back in the right orientation. So I have to lay them all out here, figure out which side is which and how they're gonna go into the engine, and then I can actually start using the heat to put everything together. So in my freezer, as you can see, there's some car parts. Now I call this the quickest way to get your girlfriend to break up with you because they're not usually too happy with a bunch of wrist pins in their freezer. You haven't been in a video in a while, buddy. What's up? All right, so out here in the garage, I've got this little mini fridge, and I'm gonna be putting the wrist pins into the fridge here to try and keep them a little bit cooler while I'm heating up the connecting rods. So I know that this is the front side of the piston connecting rod, and I know that this is the front side of the piston. So all this is gonna do is slide right in there in the center, and that'll be it. So all we have to do is heat this up super hot, and then once it's heated up, we're gonna take the pin, we're gonna slide it through, and then it'll be locked in, and we'll have one completed piston. So before we start heating things up, I'm gonna take the pin out of the fridge, I'm gonna put it right here so it can stay cold and be easily accessible, and then we'll start heating up. Didn't go in all the way. Okay, well that did not go well. Our first attempt at this has been a failure, and I'm not exactly sure what the best way to finish this is now. All right, against all my better judgment, it seems that the only way to put this in is gonna be to press fit it using this clamp. I unfortunately do not have an actual press to do this with, so I'm gonna have to do this as best as I can using the tools that I have. All right, crisis averted. We ended up getting the piston in here. It is a little bit tighter than I would like it to, but it does have movement. I don't know if I should do a little more work on this or not, but I got some lube in there and it seems to be loosening it up. As you can see, what happened there was I didn't put the pin in fast enough, or I didn't heat it long enough, one of the two. And so when it was about halfway in, it just locked up, it bound in there, and it was not gonna let me push it the rest of the way through without some serious pressure. So we got that torqued down, it is centered up, and I think this one's good. And I don't wanna be putting 500 pounds of pressure onto these new piston heads. All right, round two. All right, we almost got that one. It definitely moves a lot better, but we are gonna have to torque it down just a little bit to center it up, because as you can see right now, it is sticking out this side just a little bit, so we're gonna have to push it in. And I don't wanna be putting 500 pounds of pressure onto these new piston heads. All right, and that one is perfectly centered, all good to go. So after playing around with this for a long time, eventually I put a little jig together that allowed me to push the pin all the way through without worrying about it coming out the other side. By putting that jig in place, I was able to consistently get all of the other pistons set properly, except for those first two. Oh yeah, there was something else that I needed to say about that first one. Alright guys, I have some bad news. I did manage to get through and finish all of the other pistons here, but that first one that went wrong is broken. Now, I didn't realize it when I first was putting everything together, but this little piece chipped off from the ring right here, but there's nothing that I can do about it now. Live and learn and realize that it's thankfully only a piston head. It's 25 bucks and it'll be replaced. Thankfully, there's no ridiculous performance parts in here or anything, but I think just trying to clamp that wrist pin back in there was a horrible idea, and I should have just taken it back out and potentially even just restarted working on it. Thankfully, the connecting rod is in totally fine condition. We were able to push the pin out, and we're just gonna have to replace these pieces. And what I think happened was when I was compressing everything down together, there was enough force that it actually warped the wrist pin, because now it's super hard to get through, and I can't even get it through the other half of the piston when I push it in there. So I think that the compression force made the metal swell, and it just made it too big, and that's why it was so difficult to turn. So the one thing I didn't want to do today, I ended up doing, but thankfully the other 7 here are all good. They move, they swivel, they're really, really nice. These are a little bit tighter than the other ones, but what can you ask for? Now, I know a lot of people are gonna say you should have known better, you shouldn't have messed around. I know, but I'm trying to get through things here. I've got a deadline for this stuff, and unfortunately, I made a really stupid mistake, and there's nothing that I can do about it at this point. I feel bad about it. It sucks. I have to wait for a new part to arrive now, so I can't put the pistons in. I can't put the camshaft in, and overall, now I'm just stuck waiting for progress to be made on the engine that I should have been able to make today. But I do want to say I hope you guys learned how to and also how not to put together piston heads with the connecting rods. Obviously, there's a lot to learn in this video because seeing how not to do it is one of the ways to learn how to do it. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for joining me for this video. I hope the new style was a little bit more entertaining. I tried to go with something with a more fun approach to it rather than just do this, do that. And other than that, I'll see you guys next time. See ya!